Have you or a loved one been personally victimized by retrograde? You might be entitled to financial compensation. Call now. Just kidding, guys. All jokes aside, welcome to the Bohemian Rainbow channel, a safe space for you to be yourself, find healing, and create and live a life you love. As you might have figured, today we are going to be talking about all things retrograde. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Allie. I also go by Alley Cat. So I figured why not play the part and have Cosmic Kitty deliver you guys some cosmic news. Like that. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the current retrograde that's going on if you find this when I post it, but also tips on retrograde in general, so you can come back to this video and use these tips and tricks to manage your crash out during retrograde, because let's be real, it's probably going to happen. I think we all crash out during retrograde, but it's for a reason, so stay tuned and let me tell you exactly why, how to utilize this energy, and how to have a sustainable crash out. Because I don't know about you guys, but this past retrograde, I definitely crashed out, but it was so needed and I'm so grateful. I'm gonna give you guys some personal examples and hopefully get you guys some inspiration and motivation to get through this retrograde or whatever retrograde you find this video at. Let's go! So what even is retrograde? Retrograde comes from the Latin term retrogradus, which means moving backwards. So during this time, certain planets appear to be moving backward. Not actually, it's just an optical illusion, but the energies of the planets do kind of reverse in a way that they force you to look inward, to reflect, to slow down, to pause, to heal. So it's kind of just like a beautiful metaphor. It's kind of like in tarot when you get a reversed card. That signifies the need to reflect or look into your inner world or things that are showing up in that way. And the thing is it's not always Mercury retrograde. Every single planet has a turn and multiple planets can be retrograde at the same time. So for example, different planets are going to represent different energies and they're going to influence you to focus on different parts of your life. So for example, Mercury retrograde, that's the one we hear the most because it's the one that's most common and comes around the most. And this one's all about communication. When it's direct, smooth talking, things are going easily, you're able to move through the world with ease and smooth connections. But when it's in reverse, there's miscommunications, there's technology issues. It's also a time for you to reevaluate your voice and your thought patterns. For example, when Venus is direct, this is the planet of love and worth. So love might be moving freely. You might have ease in your relationships. But when it's retrograde, old relationship wounds might come up. You might have to deal with how you view yourself and you might feel more down. But you get to reevaluate what you value and who and how you love. And then another example is Pluto, which is the planet of transformation. When Pluto is direct, you might feel in alignment with where you are in your life. You might feel healthy and strong internally and externally, but when it's retrograde, it invites deep internal purging of control, obsession, and fear. So as I said, different planets going retrograde will symbolize different things, and it's really cool to look into this and see how the current retrograde is affecting you. Regardless, there are some things to be aware of with any retrograde, no matter what planet or planets are retrograde at the time, and that is this. So what can you expect when there are certain planets in retrograde? First things first is it's meant to tell you to slow down. Whatever's distracting you or getting in the way, whatever you are occupying yourself with or involved with, things are going to change. Somehow, some way, the universe is going to force you to slow down. This is so you can pause and reflect. Pay attention to how this might happen. Another thing to expect during any retrograde is that the past is going to resurface. This is so you can reflect on it and face it and heal it and acknowledge it. And also so you can have an opportunity to face it differently. Maybe you thought you healed this already. Maybe you haven't really thought about this in a while, but it comes back up because maybe there's something you didn't see before. Maybe there's a way it's applying to your current life that you aren't aware of. Maybe it's so you can look at it again and say, you know what, this doesn't impact me as much as it did in the past. You know what, in the past, I might have freaked out about this, but now I feel at peace and I recognize it and I let it go. Another thing you can expect during retrograde is that you're going to be invited to do inner work. That's the whole purpose of the retrograde. Slow down, look inward, face wounds, and do the inner work. And that's why I want to give you guys these tips and tricks, because I think the problem with retrograde is that when we're not willing to flow with it and look at what it's showing us, it makes it a lot more difficult. It makes us feel very victimized. It makes us feel hopeless. It might make us feel discouraged. But this is really for your higher good, and it's very powerful stuff too. And the next thing you should expect with any retrograde is that you are going to get the chance to transform. This is such a beautiful opportunity to really face these deep feelings and let them out of your body. I think it's really important too, because if we weren't forced into these energies by the universe and by the planets, I don't know how many of us would actually sit down and just pause for a second and be like, oh my gosh, like I have to face this stuff. You know, sometimes we are just so caught up in day-to-day life and all the other problems that we already have that we just don't sit down and be like, okay, but what is my inner world saying about all this? How is my inner world impacting the way I react and live in this energetic shift? Don't know if that makes sense. So those are the things you can expect. This is good because you get to face what's out of alignment. Why wouldn't you want to do that? If something's not working in your life, or if you're on the wrong path, wouldn't you want to fix that if you can? 2, you're going to get the truth of situations, people, and patterns, which is so important because people who aren't meant to be in your life anymore, bye. Patterns that are no longer serving your highest good, bye. Clarity around situations that you might not know the truth behind, amazing, because you deserve to move forward with clarity and respect and purpose. It's really good because you get the chance to rewrite your story. Like I said, old wounds will come up and you'll get to face it and be like, you know what, this isn't bothering me anymore. Or you know what, I'm going to react differently. And then that leads me to the last reason why this is really good, is because it teaches you how to move forward with more wisdom and intention. I'm just yapping. I really hope this is all making sense, guys. Every time there's a retrograde and you take advantage of this healing, transformative energy, you become a stronger version of yourself. I'm not just saying like, oh, retrograde is healing because I'm like a spiritual astrology girly. Like, I'm saying like, if you tune in and actually feel the energy and see how it's applying to your life, it's really cool and really powerful. And everybody is going to have very different, unique experiences that apply to these things. And that's why I want you guys to like listen and be like, oh, okay, like how is this showing up in my own life? So anyway, that's what to expect, and that's why it's good. And a couple questions you can ask yourself if you want to explore this, or if you're having trouble knowing where to start with all of this information. You guys want to write these questions down in your journal really quick, or even just like pause the video and journal about it, you can, or do it after. But I would definitely reflect on these 4 questions that will help you tune in to the lessons that you're meant to learn during retrograde and how to make it an easier process for you. 1, what keeps coming up lately, and is it showing me something I need to deal with? 2, is there something in my life that feels off or stuck? 3, am I being real with myself, or am I just trying to pretend everything's okay? What are you in denial about, babe? And 4, who is the version of myself that I desire to be? Ask yourself those questions, journal about it. Let me know in the comments any insights that may have come through, and let's move on. We're not always going to be online and looking up when the retrograde is and researching all of the planets. I'm going to give you a couple of basic overall signs that you'll likely experience during a retrograde that might not be as coincidental as you think. So here's some typical signs that retrograde is occurring. First one is that miscommunications or awkward convos that don't land. Sure, awkward conversations and miscommunications are bound to happen no matter what in life, right? But during retrograde, you might notice that it's with people you normally get along with, or it seems kind of out of pocket from a stranger, or maybe you misunderstand somebody or perceive it in a way that they didn't mean, and vice versa. It's actually kind of funny that I say that now too, because I was at CVS the other day. Like this Red Bull worker guy comes up to me and he's like, oh, are you gonna open the door? And I'm wearing like the craziest hippie outfit, dyed hair, do not look like I work there. And it's like, me? I was like, do I look like I'm gonna open the door? Because I was genuinely shocked that he asked me that. He goes, oh, I thought you were a worker because you were wearing your lanyard. And I go, yeah, right. I bet that was just an excuse for you to talk to a pretty girl. And he literally was like, looked at me so weird. It was so funny. Now that I look back though, I feel like that was definitely like a retrograde moment. But anyway, that's a little example of how it applied to me. A next sign you might experience during retrograde, you're gonna have tech glitches, Wi-Fi issues, just random tech issues. Like my Wi-Fi was out all week. I'm not even kidding. And I was like, okay, this is definitely retrograde. So yeah, you're definitely gonna have tech glitches and things like that. Another thing you might experience during retrograde is travel delays or scheduling chaos. You might also feel brain fog, overthinking, forgetting things, just feeling a little hazy. Another thing you might experience during retrograde is exes or old friends randomly popping up. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm just like processing everything because I'm like, all of these have happened to me during retrograde, this past phase, which it's fine. You might also experience emotional spirals, unexpected mood swings. You might also feel triggered by the past or patterns that are reoccurring. There might be sudden delays or cancellations or plans falling apart. You might just feel really tired and overstimulated, wanting to isolate more. Honestly, at the core of it all, at any retrograde, you're probably just going to be like, WTF is happening and why the heck am I crying at this commercial right now? Those are some typical signs that you're in retrograde, no matter what planet that it's in. This is all still really good. I know it doesn't sound like it is, but this is all good and for your highest good. So let's move into the current retrograde that's going on, because by the time I post this, there's still going to be about a week left of this retrograde, and it's really potent energy. And for those of you who are searching up in the middle of your crash out, this video is for you. So let's dive into the current retrograde that's going on right now for another week or so. So this current retrograde, I am a little biased to, because it is a Mercury retrograde in Leo, and I'm a Leo moon. And if you're seeing this when I post this, it's Leo season. So it's like the energy is up. The energy is amped up. And this started July 17th to 18th, and it goes all the way to August 10th and 11th. So definitely before it goes away. That being said, we talked a little bit about Mercury earlier, which is the planet of communication, tech, plans, thoughts, and self-expression. Then we have Leo, which is boldness, creativity, ego, pride, passion, and main character energy. So what does this mean when it's in retrograde though? Because this all sounds like really good stuff, right? Themes you're going to be experiencing during this Mercury retrograde in Leo are that you're going to be reclaiming your authentic expression, because that's what Leo is all about. Reflect on your own voice and your truth, not the one that you use to get validation from, not the one that you show up or don't show up out of fear. So what's your own truth? What's your own voice? What do you want? How do you express yourself? That's what Mercury retrograde in Leo is asking you right now. Another thing that this is pushing you to review is your creative projects and goals. Right now, the universe wants you to pause and look at your true intention behind these creative projects and journeys. Is this fueled by true purpose? Is this fueled by need for validation? Is this fueled by unhealthy desires? Is this even your voice? So during this time, let your art come to you. Don't force things. Pause and ask yourself what kind of creator you are and what you want to do with that moving forward. Another theme that Mercury retrograde in Leo is going to bring you is healing wounds around ego and recognition. And this is so inner child healing. This is a really important time for you to validate your own inner child. Make sure you're giving yourself that validation. Ask yourself why and how you desire to be seen from the world, like as if you were a little kid, right? We all want to be recognized when we're a little kid. We want attention from our parents, like, mom, look what I'm doing, look what I made, right? This energy right now is really asking you to look at that and ask yourself the root of your own desire to be seen, how to give it to yourself, and how to act from authenticity instead of from a place of fear and wanting other people to accept you for a version of yourself that might not be you and that you think that they would like. Does that make sense? Another thing that might occur during this Mercury retrograde in Leo, and it might already have, all of this might have already occurred because this has already been going on for about a week. So let me know down below what you've been experiencing. But you might experience old flings, crushes, and romances resurfacing. Oh my God. Okay, this isn't a sign to go back to your ex who was a freaking bum loser, okay? Not to be rude like that, but like, babe, you've moved on, okay? I mean, it might be. I think if a relationship is meant to be in your life, they might come back into your life around this time, but I do believe that there will be changes and there will be a clear path moving forward with that. However, if somebody from your past resurfaces and you know that it is not a journey that you want to continue further, then this is an opportunity for you to learn how to set better boundaries. Look at how you've healed Here's a small example. My ex recently came back into my life, and although it was friendly and healing, I knew deep down that it wasn't going to be anything romantic. So I had to set a clear boundary with him, even though in the past I wouldn't have been strong enough to do that, which is another thing that retrograde allows you to do. It allows you to look at how far you've come since the last cycle of retrograde and since the other cycles have occurred. It's a really validating feeling, and it's almost like you're shifting timelines when something from the past comes back and tries to put you back into old patterns, and you have the choice to say no. You shift timelines as soon as you do that. You're not on that path anymore, and now you're on a path of self-empowerment and growth and a journey of alignment, because that version of you from the past is not that version of you anymore. So yeah, this is a really good time to reflect on that, and also reflect on what you need from love, what you haven't gotten from love in the past, and how you've discovered the things that don't work for you and the things that you really desire in a partner. And then the last theme that you're going to experience during Mercury retrograde in Leo is that you're going to feel mental overwhelm and exhaustion around your identity and purpose. You might feel like you need to figure out your entire life right now, and everything's crashing and burning down, and you're not happy with where you're at. You're stuck at a job you don't like. You have all these dreams and goals that you want to pursue, and you haven't even taken one step forward with them. You are going to feel like, oh my God, why did I drop out of college? I need to do this and that and that and that. That's going to show up a lot right now. So just make sure you know that you don't have to figure it all out right now. This is just igniting a little fire for you to look at it and see where to get some momentum and drive and focus moving forward, and possibly make yourself a small little plan. But you don't need to figure it all out right now, and just don't panic. So those are the main themes that are going to be occurring during the Mercury retrograde in Leo, which again, that is ending in about a week or so. So hopefully you get to see this video before that retrograde is over. But the tips and tricks I include are going to be for any retrograde. So feel free to watch this video whenever, recommend it to your friends, like, comment, shameless plug in the middle of that. But anyway, so yeah, like I said earlier, multiple planets can be retrograde at one time. That being said, we do have another planet that is retrograde. A couple days ago this started, and this is going to last all the way until December 2025. But don't panic. This one is not as intense as the other current retrograde that we're in. The other one that is occurring right now is the Chiron retrograde, and this started on July 30th and goes all the way till December 2025. But this is really good because this is a deeply healing phase, and it comes with more clarity and less confusion and chaos. I personally really love Chiron. It is called the wounded healer. It represents your emotional and ancestral wounds that you're here to heal. I am such a big fan of generational healing, and I feel when you face this stuff, it is the most transformational stuff you can look at, and you just become such a powerful and amazing person when you heal these things. So this Chiron retrograde, it's in Aries. Aries is all about your identity, your independence, your personal power, your inner fire, your inner anger, the inner warrior, dedicated and motivated to making things happen, to stirring the pot. So this is a really powerful mix. It brings a sense of determination and pride around facing your wounds and really tackling it head on. Here are some themes that you can be aware of and look for during this next retrograde. You might experience unhealed anger or repressed rage. I like this because before I accepted the fact that I did have a lot of internal anger and repressed rage about my childhood and my past and just how I grew up and like dynamics I existed in high school and things like that, it made me more of a bitter person overall, and it made it harder for me to open up and connect with people. And I wasn't even really fully aware of this until one day I just realized, I was like, you know what, like I am angry. But it wasn't until I acknowledged that I was able to have compassion for myself, give myself grace, and let myself heal it. So this is a really important time to let yourself feel the rage, because underneath it is some sort of grief. Let yourself feel the rage, definitely acknowledge it, find healthy ways to express it. The biggest thing is just like validating your inner child and giving yourself the recognition for the rage that you feel, and like nurturing yourself about why you feel that rage. You might also experience some wounds around unworthiness and taking up space. So just focus on self-love and know that your worth isn't earned. This is a really big one, and I want to talk more about this in another video for sure, because I feel like so many of us feel unworthy or find it difficult to be our full selves and take up space. So definitely want to talk about that more, so stay tuned on the channel for that. But right now, if that's coming up for you, definitely just pour into self-love, pour into self-care, and just know that you are worthy. Allow yourself to take up space and really get outside of your comfort zone and push yourself to take up space and be yourself more authentically. That'll help you feel more worthy. The more you push yourself to, the more you're like rewriting that belief that like, oh, okay, I am worthy and it is okay to take up space, you know? But you have to do that part for yourself. Another theme you might experience during this Chiron retrograde in Aries through December is that you might feel wounds around self-abandonment and armor. It's hard to open yourself up again. It's hard to trust. It's hard to know when a situation is fully safe and whether or not it's going to end up hurting you. But a way to move through this is to choose presence over panic. All you can do really is you can't control the future. You can't really control the past. All you can do is be in the present moment and let yourself feel what you feel, follow your heart, and be open and soften, because the most beautiful things come when you are your most authentic self, whenever you allow yourself to receive and give love, even with the risk of something not working out the way that you want, because there's so much beauty in learning how to stay open and just be open to connection. This isn't even just love connection. This is friends, family, because once upon a time, I was very much in the mindset of I don't need anybody, and it was a very strong wall of armor that I had, and it made it really difficult to feel close to people or feel understood by people. All I would say is if you feel something in your heart, follow that and don't protect yourself too much, because you're going to be okay. Obviously, if a situation is unsafe, like you know what to do, but I'm talking about in the subtle ways. Like, for example, right now I have a crush. There's times where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to text them first, or oh, I am not going to compliment them because I don't know how they feel about me, or like I don't know if they feel as strongly as I do. But then I choose to be vulnerable and honor my heart because it's how I genuinely feel. And typically the response back is very warm, and it also encourages the other person to do the same for themselves. So not only are you healing yourself, but you're making a domino effect and healing other people. That's the freaking point of all this energy and all this like crazy spiritual work and all this like peace, love, happiness shit that I talk about, because it's like it's all connected and we can all make an impact on each other, and it's freaking beautiful. Anyway, that was a little tangent, but another theme you might experience during this Chiron retrograde in Aries is that you might feel fear of rejection or old pain resurfacing around that. It's all about making sure you validate yourself and feeling worthy enough to be yourself and know that one, rejection is divine protection, and two, rejection feels really intense because I feel like it just goes to our inner child where we want to be seen and held and accepted and loved. And sometimes that fear is so strong that we don't show up in our most authentic and brave way. Just look at this theme and see how it's applying to your life and challenge it when it shows up. Just acknowledge the pain and have compassion for yourself and know that you are worthy, like I said. One last theme you might experience during this Chiron retrograde in Aries is that you might deal with inner power dynamics with yourself or other people, and this is your time to connect to your inner warrior. That's that Aries energy. Ask yourself how you're showing up for others, how you're showing up for yourself. Are you prioritizing your dreams? Are you prioritizing your health? Or are you people pleasing? Are you listening to what other people would decide for your life? This is your time to look at your own self and say, what the heck do I want? Who the heck am I? What boundaries do I need to set to make sure people and things aren't disrespecting me, and make sure I'm not disrespecting myself? This is a time to reclaim your power, really listen to your inner voice, and trust yourself. Hopefully that all makes sense about the current energies that are going on right now. Now I'm just going to give you some tips and tricks that you can use during any retrograde, no matter who, what, when, where, why, okay? So write these down or come back to this video next time there's a retrograde that is kicking your ass. First, some tips and tricks for your mindset and your energy. First things first, slow down, like I said. Don't resist the fact that retrograde wants you to pause and reflect. Slow down, take time for yourself, stay in more, chillax, slow down, whatever that means to you. Next is feel your emotions instead of avoiding them. Retrograde is an emotional detox. So the more you allow the feelings to come up, the more you acknowledge them, the more you actually listen to them, the easier the retrograde is going to be for you. If you're resisting, if you are trying to have constant simulation, if you are just go, 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 constantly doing things this whole time, if you're not giving yourself any time to just sit and think with yourself, this retrograde's probably going to find ways to force you to, and they're not going to be fun. So I would definitely just trust the process and slow down a little bit so you don't get yourself in a worse situation that makes you slow down. Okay? Another tip and trick to do during retrograde is, since you're already reflecting and slowing down, now is a time to reevaluate your life. what's not working, what do I want to change, who do I want to be, am I happy in my relationships, are there friendships that are not serving me, do I need to ask for a raise in my job? Reevaluate your life. Another tip and trick for managing retrograde is to let your old thoughts, feelings, or people resurface without attaching. So when I said earlier, if your ex comes back into your life, don't take it as a sign that you are meant to be together and that it's a sign from God or something like that. The whole purpose is so you can look at these things without becoming absorbed and attached to them. The point is to process the emotions and let them go. Release them. Don't become attached to them. Attachment is the root of all suffering, as Buddha once said. Let these old things come. Another personal example for me is that during this retrograde, I had a dream about my ex. And some people might be like, oh my God, it's a sign, which no hate. I've been there. I like to think a lot of things are signs. But that came up because I needed to process some things that I wasn't fully aware that were still inside of me. Let those come up and just let them move through. Acknowledge how they made you feel. Acknowledge how different it is from your new life. Just let the energy move through you without attaching any meaning to it necessarily. Feel it and let it go. Another tip is don't force clarity. Obviously, you have a lot of emotions, thoughts, feelings, trauma, fear, all this stuff coming up right now. Now is not really the time to try to figure a situation out or have full clarity about a decision that you need to make. Don't force clarity. Let the emotions, let the energy, let all the other stuff that needs to be healed move through you first, and the clarity will naturally come. So just don't try to force anything and just trust that the answer is going to come to you, okay? Which leads me to my next tip is lean into trust instead of control. There's definitely going to be chaos that occurs during any retrograde that you are in, and the most important part is to just lean into trust, and do not resist the chaos that retrograde is going to happen. Sit back, let whatever's happening happen, process it, and it'll all make sense in the end. Another tip and trick for retrograde is to protect your peace, whether that's just from you hermiting inside your house, setting boundaries with people, not over explaining, not being a people pleaser, just honoring what you need in this moment. Whatever's going to make you the most peaceful whenever you come across this video, if you're going through a retrograde, do that. That comes first. This is a very heightened time right now, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and you have to protect your peace during. So a small example for me is that one of my friends invited me to hang out during this retrograde, and I was feeling really drained and overwhelmed and super exhausted, and I had some personal YouTube goals that I wanted to get to that I didn't get around to yet. So I had set a boundary with her and said, hey, I'm going to stay in today. Old me might have over-explained and tried to people please and soften the blow with that boundary, but new me was like, I know this is what I need right now, and I don't have to feel guilty about putting myself first. So there's a small example from me. Another tip and trick is stay present instead of trying to fix everything. So like I said before, you are going to reevaluate your entire life, but you don't need to make any decisions right now about what exactly to do with it. Just stay present, see what's going on, see what energies are coming up, and just know that those problems, those plans, those paths that you want to pursue, they're all still going to be there. So once retrograde is over and once the energies of the planets are a little less intense, you'll have time to really solidify that plan and know how to move forward. But for now, stay present, focus on these other things like protecting your peace, finding healing, slowing down, listening to your inner world, and the rest will make sense. That leads me to my next tip. Hermit mode is very sacred right now, which is why one of the things you might feel during retrograde is that you need more alone time. That's because the energies are freaking crazy, and I don't know about you, but when I'm around other people, I don't really have the same reflections or space to look inward like I am when I'm by myself. Also, very important to get alone time in general. It's where you find your own peace. Energy around you isn't overstimulating you, where you can really tune into your own voice and see what the heck is going on. So this time is important, especially paired with all the other things, all the other inner work that you're experiencing during this time. Don't feel bad about hibernating in your house for a whole week. Know that it's probably actually good for you. The last tip and trick for your mindset and energy during retrograde is that meditation will be your best friend. I know we all say it, but part of the reason why retrograde causes all these tech issues, causes all this chaos, wants you to stay inside, wants you to pause and reflect, is so you can sit with yourself and actually listen and hear what's going on, which is crazy because I was literally forced to do that during this retrograde. I'll tell you guys my story of my crash out in a second. Let's just get through these tips really quick, but This stuff is really crazy. So some practical tips during Mercury retrograde, because I just gave you some energetic and mental tips, but there's some practical stuff because, as you know, retrograde does bring some physical chaos into our life, is to double check your messages, your plans, anything that you're putting out into the world. Double check that. You might have typos. You might have said something wrong in an email. You might have accidentally sent a text to somebody else that you weren't supposed to send a text to. You might have glitches in your creations and your videos and your art. Make sure you double check before posting. You might even have trouble posting, so you might want to wait before this retrograde is over to share your creation, as frustrating as that is. But at the very least, just make sure you're double checking everything and being a little bit more focused on the errors and things that might get misconstrued. Another tangible tip during any retrograde is don't make super big purchases or sign major contracts during this time or make major decisions. Problems tend to arise during this time, so it might be good to pause before you make a huge decision, before you make a huge financial purchase. Because another thing you might experience during retrograde too is the desire to overspend or to overindulge, or just not really managing your money as well. Avoid these things unless completely necessary, and hopefully if you have to do that during this time, you're protected and it's in alignment with your path anyway. So another tangible tip that you might want to do is that back up your files and give yourself a little buffer with your schedules. So as I said before, there's many tech problems that occur. So if you have important things, I would definitely back that up. If you are deep into a Sims game and you've made like 3 hours of progress and you haven't saved yet, definitely would save more frequently than 3 hours, because your game's probably going to crash and you're going to lose all your progress and your Sim's no longer going to be married with a kid anymore. And you're going to have to find that partner all over again and start that all over. So yeah. And also give yourself some flexibility with your schedules. If you're able to move some things around, give yourself some more time to regulate yourself before you dive into all of these meetings, all these different things. If you need to cancel plans, give yourself grace with that. Another tangible tech tip that I can give you for retrograde is to revisit old projects or do something creatively that's not high stakes for fun, instead of starting a new big project that you're really passionate about that you want to put out into the world. So for example, me, I couldn't really do YouTube this past week because my Wi-Fi was down. I was really upset about that because I'm super dedicated to making this dream happen. But I knew that if I were to force it, it wouldn't have came out the way that it needed to. So what I did instead is started writing love letters. Don't ask. Started writing love letters and putting my creativity into other things that were not as high stake to me, that could still channel the energy that I was feeling and the creativity that I was wanting. Revisit old projects or start one that's not as high stakes. And then last but not least, some practical tips during retrograde is just reflect on your spending and emotional purchases. We like to have a little fun because we live in a corporate world where life sucks and we want to buy stuff sometimes, okay? The point is just know that you might be a little bit unbalanced in this area. So just definitely check in with yourself. Make sure you have enough for rent. Make sure you have enough for groceries, and give yourself grace there because it's not easy. So yeah, those are some good mental, energetic, and practical tips for you to survive any retrograde. Now we're going to dive into what the heck happened to me during this retrograde so far, how I crashed out, what I did to manage it. Maybe you can relate, and definitely comment down below what you went through during this retrograde. So I'll just give you a list of everything that happened that I feel is directly related to the retrograde. This is funny because like this all started off on the exact date that retrograde started. So the first things first is that one of my like super close friends broke up with me like out of nowhere, no conversation. Very confusing situation for me. This had happened when I said that I was going to stay inside because I wasn't feeling that good instead of going out. And so that really threw me for a loop. Kind of just had to process that and move through that. After that, that kind of really initiated the emotional overwhelm I started feeling. And I thought maybe it was just because of my friend, because I didn't know at the time that there was a retrograde going on. But then I started feeling that emotional overwhelm gradually increase day after day. Monday night, my Wi-Fi goes out. So not only am I really emotional, dealing with a friend breakup, starting the work week over, my Wi-Fi's out now. And I can't even watch TV to numb these feelings and these emotions. Retrograde doing its fucking job. The next day follows. Wi-Fi's still out. That's fine. I'll go to work today and I'll see if it reestablishes itself. I come back home at the end of the day, the Wi-Fi's working again. Woohoo, I'm so happy. Literally one episode in, the Wi-Fi crashes again. So I'm crashing out at this point because my phone doesn't have service in my house either. So I couldn't even watch TV or use my phone. So I was literally just sitting there. It's crazy because you don't realize how much you actually numb your thoughts and your emotions and your feelings until you're forced to sit with it. And that's why retrograde is so cool and powerful. Yeah, Wi-Fi was out all week. So I was forced to face my inner world during that week. Not only that, during this time, I was really feeling all of my feelings from my breakup earlier this year, from work changes, from my new home, from new connections. It's like all of these feelings and all of these thoughts and all these things that I hadn't really fully like put into thoughts and words all came to me at once. As I hit that point where all these feelings were coming and I didn't have Wi-Fi, I didn't have my phone, it was at the point where I was just like, I had a breakdown and I was just crying on the floor, just like sobbing, like these like very deep, like wounded inner child sobs. And as I was crying, I started hearing these thoughts in my head, like these really fearful, like negative thoughts. And I was like, man, like those are my fears. Normally we're like, don't say that stuff, right? Like, don't say these negative things to yourself. Like, but this time I allowed myself to speak it out loud. For example, some things I was saying to myself and processing was the fear of abandonment, fear of never finding a love that is reciprocal and that is as deep as I give to others. Lots of wounds around feeling like I'm too much, fear of rejection. I felt very lonely, self-worth issues around like being left in the past, relationships not working out. There's a lot of self-worth issues coming up just around me showing up for my dreams and things like that. And I was just speaking these things out loud and like letting them go. It's like almost like speaking them like they left my body. I sound insane right now. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to tell you guys what I experienced because this doesn't just happen without like the energies of the planets, you know? And also like your part in this is to look at it and be like, damn, you know? That felt really good at the end of that crash out because I did need to cry. I did need to release. I did need to let those things out of my body. A couple of other things I had was miscommunications with a couple people, some feelings of like, oh, like, did that land right? Or, oh, like, what did you mean by that? Or like, oh, where do we stand with each other? Not only that, I was just in the midst of a midlife crisis at age 25. I was like reevaluating my finances, who I want to be in life, what career path I want to take, like where I am currently, what I want from love, like everything I was just reevaluating. And I was just like, I want to run away to another state and like start over, but also I don't want to do that because that's a lot of work and that's not the answer to this problem right now. So that is the purpose of retrograde, to reevaluate your whole life, crash everything to the ground so you can build up again. It was a beautiful experience though, and I was definitely crashing out, but I don't think it's a bad thing because it was destined, and I really utilized this energy to empower myself and transform myself. It's giving ego death. It's giving witchy transformation. It's giving spiritual power. That's why this stuff is so cool. Because yeah, you could just live your life normally in retrograde, but like why not look at this stuff and see how to become like a superhuman, how to become like so aligned and powerful that you manifest everything you want in your life? Because you're not going to do that unless you do this stuff. Those are some personal examples. Now I'm going to give you some survival moves that I personally implemented during this time because I would not have been able to survive this time without these. My first retrograde survival move during this time was I slept on the couch all week, and I don't normally do that. All I knew is I was like, I need a change of environment. So I made myself a really cozy bed in the living room every night. Kind of just had like a little sleepover with myself every night in the living room, and it was really, really comforting. One of my other survival moves was that I let myself cry and I voiced my fears out loud. That one was really big for me for sure because I had never really spoken my fears out loud like that and like really acknowledged like, damn girly, you scared and you wounded, like, you know, nothing wrong with that. But I think like it's important to acknowledge that so we feel seen by ourselves, which leads me to the next thing that I focused on, which is really poured into nurturing my inner child, making sure she felt safe and validated, and really like looking at those wounds. Like, why do I feel like I'm too much? Why do I feel like I'm never going to find the love that I want? Why do I feel like I can't speak my truth sometimes? Like, why am I scared of people not accepting me? Why this and that and that? So I really tuned into that. And I also just really like nurtured my inner child. Like, I feel like during that time, she was a very strong image in my head. And I really focused on her, and like that's why I let myself cry and I spoke out my fears and I slept on the couch and I did all these things, because it was all for her. Another thing that I did that was absolutely vital to survive retrograde was yoga, walking, and dancing. Walking is the biggest thing for me because I just moved and the neighborhood back there is so cute. And it's been such a huge source of regulation for me, for my emotions and my energy. Same goes for yoga. I did a lot of stretching because energy is stored in your body. Emotions are stored in certain areas of your body. My back was really, really hurting and tight. My hips were really, really sore and tight. So I really stretched those areas. Sometimes when you're doing yoga, I don't know if you've ever had this, but you'll be in a deep stretch and you just start crying. That's because your body's holding on to that energy. And it's crazy too, because like you might not notice it. And then all of a sudden, you start to feel overwhelmed and your back's hurting really bad. Like notice when you feel the shifts in your body because it'll tell you what emotions you need to process for sure. Listen to your body and see what emotions need to be processed. And dancing, oh my God, I literally just went crazy in my living room. So I could literally like shake the energy out of my body. Also, I love dancing and I love music. My point is I did a lot of physical movement to release the energy that was stuck in my body. Another retrograde tool that I used for myself is that I journaled using voice memos because let's be real, my hand cannot keep up with all that consciousness, that stream of consciousness, and it starts to freaking hurt. So I did voice memos and just allowed myself to spew everything out, and that was really helpful to just like let things go and also to see how I'm processing things and like how I feel about things. Another thing I did was I set boundaries with friends and work and other people, made sure I protected my energy and my peace during this time and honored what I truly needed and didn't go past my capacity. Because honestly, I was crashing out so bad. Like there was only so much I could do. Like it was survival mode, babe. Like it was not like, hey, I'm a little crashing out, like let's go do something. It's like, no, I'm canceling plans, and no, I can't stay late at work today because I need to go take care of myself. Another thing I did, which honestly has been super healing for me recently, is listening to different healing frequencies. Using frequencies helps me feel like it's not so quiet, but it's also good because it tunes into certain energy that you need to feel inside of your body. So I did a lot of root chakra healing, a lot of heart chakra healing frequencies. Another tool that I used during this retrograde for myself is I did art. Like I told you, I was writing love letters and just like art that wasn't super high stakes, that was just like fun and playful. I did chalk on my patio. Also took solo time for myself, took myself on a date a couple of times, treated myself to comfort food, got some freaking ice cream, got some mozzarella sticks. It was amazing and it was everything I needed and it healed me. Might have to go get some of that right now, actually. Another tool that I did for myself to help myself manage this retrograde and get through my crash out was I reevaluated my goals and made plans for them. One thing I was really crashing out about was my debt and my finances. So kind of reevaluated some plans and goals there and made some tangible steps. The next thing I did was I shared my vulnerability with others instead of hiding myself. I was feeling really tender, super emotional, very overwhelmed this whole time, but I did reach out to lean on my friends and family for support. I also poured lots of love into other connections that I felt were healthy, people that I really respected and valued and I wanted to become closer to. I find a lot of joy and comfort in like giving to others, and so I really poured into that during this time and really expressed lots of gratitude and love for others. And I think too, sharing my vulnerability with them like brought us closer and allowed them to share their vulnerability with me. So it was really a beautiful experience, very bonding. Another thing I did was I stopped overgiving and chasing validation. This one was really, really good for me because I tend to have an old wound come up that I want to be accepted and loved by my friends, and I have a fear of disappointing them. And so sometimes that might encourage me to act in ways that are a little needy or validation seeking. And I really challenged myself during this retrograde when I felt those feelings come up. I just was my most authentic self. I didn't over explain, wasn't overly like needy. My crush, like I am normally kind of like an anxiously attached person, but I really let that breathe and I gave us both like the space and I didn't overcompensate or overgive or just like try too hard in that area, and that felt really good and actually super empowering. So I'm really glad that I let myself kind of like step back in those areas, whether it was friends, romantic connections, or family, and just like poured into myself and allowed the connections to flow naturally and in a more reciprocal manner. The last thing I did, which is most important of all, is I surrendered because there was so much that I couldn't control during this time. I let the chaos come and I took that shit in stride and with bravery, with confidence, and now I feel so empowered. I feel like there's things that I've released that needed to be let go of. There was things that I processed that I thought I had already processed. I feel like a new, like, respectable version of myself by like choosing differently. I feel really good about the fact that I was able to regulate myself, let myself heal and cry, be there for myself. I hope you guys feel it too, even though it's very chaotic sometimes. So yeah, those are basically my tips and tricks to survive retrograde, some personal examples over the retrograde that's been happening, some overall details about retrograde and what you can expect no matter what retrograde you find this video during. So yeah, we know retrograde can humble us real quick, but it's also a portal for healing if you allow it to be. You don't have to have it all together. You definitely don't have to not crash out during this time. Just let yourself be real during retrograde. Take care of yourself. And just know, if you cried in the shower, argued with your Wi-Fi, and if you questioned your entire life recently, welcome. You're right at home. Anyway, guys, comment below something that happened to you during this retrograde. Comment any insights, any healing that you've been finding. And join the rainbow community by subscribing, please. And thank you. Love you so much. Super grateful to have you guys here. So excited to talk about this stuff today. And I'm wishing you healing in the rest of your retrograde. Bye.